Hi, I'm John Corvino. Many gay people place a great deal of importance on the question of whether we were born this way. I'm about to commit an act of gay heresy, with apologies to Lady Gaga, and say that I neither know nor care whether I was born this way. Why do I say this? Well, first of all, I don't like the way this question is usually set up, because it's usually set up as, what makes people gay? Which suggests that the default setting is that everyone's supposed to be straight, and then we need to figure out what went wrong in these cases. But human sexuality, in fact animal sexuality more generally, is a complex thing. Why do I say I don't know? Well, research does suggest that there's a strong genetic component in sexual orientation. But there's a big leap from strong genetic component in sexual orientation to the conclusion that any given individual is hardwired to have the sexuality that they have. There are over 15 genes implicated in eye color, dozens in human height. But when we take a complex trait like sexuality, people think that we're going to find a gay gene, like some little rainbow-colored thumbtack in your brain that you can see by some act of introspection. It's just a crazy, simplistic way of thinking about things. Now, some people say, well, you may not know that you were born this way, but I know that I was born this way. I say, really, how? They say, well, I've had these feelings for as long as I can remember. Okay, but you probably don't remember the world when you were born. And it's not like you were shrink-wrapped in plastic for the first few years of your life. You had an environment. Again, it's complex. But the more important point is that I don't care whether I was born this way. Just because you were born with a trait, it doesn't automatically follow that you ought to act on it or not act on it. I might have been born with violent tendencies, but if I start beating the cameraman, you're not going to say, hey, it's cool, he was born that way. Watch yourself. Maybe people think that you need to show that we're born this way in order to prove that it's a deep and important trait about who we are. But that's just false. People aren't born with their religion, but most people think of that as deep and important. In fact, it's constitutionally protected. Or maybe people think we need to show this to prove that it's not a choice. But this just confuses distinct issues. Whether I was born with a trait and whether I can change the trait are separate questions. I was born with dark hair, but I could dye my hair blonde, inadvisable though that may be. I was not born comprehending English. That was something I acquired. But I can't unacquire it. I can't stop comprehending English short of having a lobotomy. And furthermore, it would be a real deprivation if I had to stop expressing myself in English. The point is, you don't need to show that you're born with a trait in order for it to be a deep and important and relatively fixed fact about who you are. Maybe gay people think we need to show that we're born this way in order to prove to other people that this is not just some act of willful defiance. But gay sexuality, like straight sexuality, is something that we discover, not something we invent. I mean, who among us says, hey, I'm going to choose to be attracted to that person over there? Whoa. No, it doesn't work that way. It's time for us to stop these simplistic discussions of human sexuality, particularly homosexuality, and to recognize that the important moral question is not how did we come to have these feelings, but rather how can we express them in a responsible and healthy and fulfilling manner.